Now, this is a story all about how Disney's woke went upside down. I'd like to take a minute, so you all just sit right there. I'll tell you how Snow White became a source of despair. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the live-action reboot, looks to be one of the most expensive movies of all time for the Walt Disney Company. And yet they know it's probably going to fail. We're going to walk through what in the world is going on here as the bandits, the magical creatures, have been dropped and creepy CGI dwarfs have come in. Will it save Rachel Zegler's career? Well, we'll talk about it, but one thing's for sure, they should have just went with dwarfs. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, ye of every single age out there, you of every single type and background. We are here to talk about something that unites us all, and that is the truth. We are here to explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve. Happy to do so. We begin today with how this started, and we'll end with where we're at now. This out of Forbes as we set the table for just how badly things have gone for the Walt Disney Company and the Snow White reboot, starring the dislikable, perhaps, Rachel Zegler. This is from Forbes. Connor Murray is going to have significant egg on the face after this one. Diverse Snow White remake his latest film to anger the anti-woke crowd. Listen to how this was being presented just back in the end of July. And then notice if you think Connor Murray may have not been quite so in touch with this. Disney's Snow White live-action remake, which features a more diverse cast, including Hispanic actress Rachel Zegler as the titular princess, is angering right-wing commentators, many of whom have branded a series of movies including Little Mermaid, Elemental, and Barbie, as woke for embracing diverse casting and feminist themes. Now, I don't remember anybody labeling Elemental as woke, so I don't know. Here's what it says. Disney's live-action remake of its 1937 animated classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is slated to hit theaters in March 2024. Well, that's how it was going. Today we know that's not the case. Like the live-action Little Mermaid remake, Disney cast a woman of color to play a character who was white. In fact, Snow White in the animated original. Well, in this case, it's a little bit more bizarre than that. They cast someone who's also half Polish, who will be playing a independent socialist woman leading a revolt in Germany. Let that sink in for a moment.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
An interview of Zegler has resurfaced and attracted criticism in right-wing social media circles in which she reveals the remake will be more modernized. By that we mean that a lot of people didn't like that she was very negative about a classic story that launched the entire Walt Disney Company. How about that? Let's also not forget she called the prince a creepy kind of fellow. So she just was all kinds of charming about Disney's foundational film. Disney also changed its approach to the Seven Dwarfs for the live-action edition, casting a diverse set of actors, including reportedly just one actor who has actual dwarfism, as well as actors of different races, sparking more criticism. Also known as Disney decided to be inclusive of dwarfs by excluding all but one dwarf. And when you consider, folks, that, well, there aren't that many dwarfs, and this probably would have led to at least having doubles and backups, you're talking about anywhere from 14 to 21 dwarf actors being cut out of a job. It goes on to complain about Fox News and Megyn Kelly, and you get the idea. Forbes was just so fantastic about all of this. Watch this, key background. Snow White is just the latest in a series of films, including some produced by Disney that have angered. Now, notice the framing here. It's just right-wing critics, right? It's just right-wing critics. They're the ones who have the problem. Notice how they use The Little Mermaid, despite the fact that decades before, Brandy was cast as Cinderella. Of course, Brandy is black. Conservatives didn't care about that. Turns out that people don't care about that sort of thing until you start doing it intentionally for the purpose of trying to get that modern message out. How about that? But all through this entire article, it's just about right-wing, 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 right-wing. And what that means is, of course, that this was relegated to just a small fringe. A fringe. But things are changing.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again.
Now we go to bounding into comics. Initial costs for Rachel Zegler's Snow White film are already shockingly high. This by John Trent. And this here, folks, is why you're going to begin to see that this is now the potentially biggest monetary catastrophe that the Disney company has ever faced at the box office. John said, a new report details the initial cost for the Walt Disney Company's live-action Snow White film starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot came in at $209.3 million. Now, why does that matter? Well, it matters because Snow White and the 7 dirty hippies who have now been replaced with 7 freaky CGI characters, well, it had a $209 million price tag. It's now going to be reshot. And I can't see any way around, not reshooting this film with every scene that features a dwarf, because they weren't dwarfs before. And that changes the eye lines where you look into the other character's eye. And that creates all kinds of weird dissidence if you don't go back and have Rachel Zegler redo the things. So if they're dropping the dirty hippies and dropping them off at their local big box retailer to find work, well, that means that the CGI characters are not at the same heights, they're not the same levels, they need new lighting and all of that. And that means that this movie, which is already at $209 million, well, it's going to balloon. Let's be on the absolute fairest side possible and say that it increases by $50 million just to reshoot it, right? But that is not all. So we're going up by $50 million just on reshoots. Snow White live-action remake gets massive delay as SAG-AFTRA strike continues. This out of Screen Rant by Brendan Klein. Disney officially delaying Snow White live-action remake released by Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot as SAG-AFTRA strike continues. But it's not just that it is being delayed, of course. We know that they are replacing the diverse cast with CGI characters. Now, wait a minute. Connor, are you furious? Connor of Forbes, are you furious that the diverse Snow White remake is being undone by Disney? Perhaps Disney itself is right-wing and part of the conspiracy. I think not. I think that most people looked at this and laughed heartily, and Connor just wasn't in on the joke.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There is a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
But yes, they are going to go for a full year delay on this. They're going to reshoot this. They're going to bring in CGI for this. And what does that mean? Well, that means that they probably had to put aside the dwarfs. They had to put aside the dwarfs that were originally there, the bandits we're talking about. And that means they probably are going to be paid still, just as much as they're going to be paid before. But I suspect, given that there were women and young people playing those bandits, that they're having to hire new voice actors to play these older dwarfs. And that means they've got to hire 7 more people. And they probably got to hire 7 CGI people. And that's just for the mocap. This is getting expensive. They also announced this, by the way, on the exact same day that South Park joining the Panderverse came out. Wonder if there's a coincidence there. I also wonder if there's a coincidence here that on October 27th, the exact same day, John Trent said, Snow White and the Evil Queen actress Brett Cooper says film will not be a conservative movie. We'll focus on timeless values of original story. Brett Cooper, the actress in the upcoming Snow White and the Evil Queen film from bentkey, a subsidiary of Daily Wire, shared that the film will focus on timeless values of the original tale and will not be a conservative movie. Wow. You mean that competitors to Disney is deciding that they are not going to be political or partisan in any way? And Disney suddenly is deciding that they better be on that same page lest they lose to an upshot film company that's brand new? Interesting, isn't it? Interesting, isn't it? But if we suggest that this escape attempt from wokeism is costing Disney at least $50 million, that's just in reshoots, folks. Don't forget that there is also likely a major cost to CGI. Let's go back to another movie that is being compared to this, where Sonic the Hedgehog was terrifying when its trailer released, and those images that came out from Snow White and the 7 Dirty Hippies, they were hideous as well, and people mocked them, and we mocked them, and they deserved to be mocked because they were terrible. The outfits, the costumes, everything about it was absolutely terrible. Sonic the Hedgehog redesign was estimated to have cost $35 million, but Paramount said it was $5 million. This is from Ryan Scott over on MovieWeb. Now, $5 million sounds pretty cheap, and you would think, well, maybe Snow White can get away with a $5 million upcharge on this. But I'm here to tell you that the way that they kept this down to $5 million from Paramount, according to sources, is they simply took a new Sonic model and put it over the CGI skeleton, right, the rig, if you will, and had it be reanimated and re-rendered. And that was it. That's all that had to be done, really, except for a few things they had to do, touch-ups, where they had to reposition the eyes and things because the eye shape is different. And so you have to move the pupils a little bit differently. But for the most part, it was really easy. Now, consider Snow White and the 7 Dirty Hippies originally had hippies. And that means that you have to do the CGI from scratch. There's no rig, there's no skeleton. And so that's going to be expensive. Now consider that there's not one character you have to do with that, but there's 7. There's 7 hedgehogs of nightmare. I mean, dirty hippies of nightmarish origins that all have to be reconfigured. And consider, too, that not only do you have to redo these 7 CGI characters by creating brand new CGI characters and rigging them up, brand new reshoots, but you also have to sync their mouths to new voice actors who we surmise will be hired. And not only that, but, oh yeah, those CGI dwarfs, well, they're not covered in fur. They're covered in skin. And human skin is really difficult to pull off convincingly. Does everybody remember the Star Wars CGI models? For example, Princess Leia? You're going to have 7 dwarfs. 7 dwarfs with very significant screen time who have to be convincing and not terrifying. And all of that, folks, is going to add up to great expense. So what are we talking about here? In addition to all of this, we know that Snow White, all of its sets that are going to be reshot have to be put into storage or kept in place. And they're going to have to rent out some very expensive locations yet again to do those reshoots. I'm here to tell you, I think that this film could get close to the $400 million budget mark. Now, that's not the most expensive production cost we've ever seen. However, when you consider the fact that Rachel Zegler is less popular than Brie Larson, and she seems to be on a tear, I'm here to tell you, I think Disney would have been far better off just starting this entire thing with dwarfs. People with dwarfism playing this role they were probably so happy to get a shot at. This is a catastrophe, but it's brought on by wokeness. And unfortunately for folks like Forbes out there, people like Connor Murray, this just goes to show you that go woke still means what people have said. It's not a joke that those sorts of things do indeed go broke. And Disney is just one huge 60% loss in stock kind of example of that. And Snow White is perhaps the icing on the cake. All right, folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe. Let us know what you think about this by dropping a comment down below. You're going to surely tell us whether or not you think this is going to be one of the most expensive production budgets ever when it's done, as well as let us know how much do you think it's actually going to cost. This film, unfortunately for Disney, is probably going to underperform The Little Mermaid. Remember, The Little Mermaid came in at something like $550 million, which meant it lost hundreds of millions of dollars. It needed about $750 to break even. Snow White surely cannot even touch this. Halle Bailey is much more likable than Rachel Zegler, and The Little Mermaid, frankly, is more popular than Snow White today. So this could go very, very ugly in a very bad way for Disney, but we will continue to track it as always as we explain entertainment and keep you ahead of the culture curve. It's what we do here. We love it. We enjoy it. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
This Halloween's definitely gonna be something.
Even after dead franchises like Marvel are like zombies, rotting corpses of their former glory. Dead, but still animated.
I wonder, are there any franchises with some afterlife qualities?
One Piece is almost vampiric, as it's sucking the life out of the competition. Yeah.
DC is kind of like Frankenstein's monster, with bits and pieces from everywhere and nothing is consistent.
I'm the ghost of Star Wars.
You know what would be a real treat this Halloween? Checking out WDW Pro. He's got all the sweet news on his Thursday live show at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Not to mention, his daily videos are a real treat.
Guys, I'm the ghost of Star Wars. Get it?
You know, we should go and make sure we're subscribed.
Guys, I'm the ghost of Star Wars.
And while we're at it, we'll ring that bell to make sure we're notified.
Great, let's go. Because, well, we actually care about that. Let's go.
Fact. Star Wars is not dead. It's haunting the staffs of Disney Plus.